Hello everybody, it's Professor Parish, and we are at week 8 for English 109. So that means that after this week, we will officially be at midterms, which is crazy to think that we are nearly halfway done with this semester. Crazy! I told you it would fly by, right? And it will start to fly by as soon as we hit midterm. So I have a few things I want to go over with you all. This should be a very easy week assignment wise, but I want to take advantage of the extra time I have in this video and talk about sources with you all, especially in regards to our next 3 papers, papers 2, 3, and 4. So with that being said, I am recording this video a little bit early, so you will notice when I show our course content that week 7 assignments are still listed. So if you've not completed those, please make sure you do so as soon as possible. But in the meantime, I'm going to minimize myself over here in the corner. Here I am now. And let's go to our assignments and just look at what we have for this week. So as I said before, week 7, if you've not done the grammar review, the discussion forum, or the writing prep, especially talking about cause and effect, please make sure you do so by the due dates where they are due. But as you'll notice for week 8, we really only have 2 assignments. Our discussion forum, which I'm going to show you all in a moment, and our textbook activity. So let me pull those up here. Our discussion forum for this week, for week 8, if you go ahead and look on it, is really simple. All it is that you are submitting your draft of your compare and contrast paper. Yay. To be viewed by your peers. It's exactly the same format as we did with your cause and effect. It's just your draft. It's a work in progress. I would like to see at least 2 of the 3 pages that are needed completed for this draft, but if you have all 3 pages minimum that you need for this paper done, go ahead and submit that. But just keep in mind, the more you submit, the more I have to look at and give you feedback on. And the same goes for your peers. So that's all that's due this week, discussion forum wise, is just to get that draft of your compare and contrast paper in by Friday of week 8. If you've not done the compare and contrast writing prep in week 7, make sure you do that by this coming Sunday. And then obviously, just like our cause and effect draft, read 2 of your peers' posts and give them feedback. I think everyone did a pretty good job on the first cause and effect paper, those of you that submitted your drafts. It's really important that you submit to this discussion forum. I know some students skip this, but I would encourage you not to, because not only does this give you the opportunity to have myself look at your paper and give you feedback, but it lets your peers read your writing as well. So don't procrastinate and skip out on this forum. It is worth a nice chunk of points, so I don't want you to miss out on that either. So that is due, and then the other assignment due is our textbook activity number 4. So if I open it up, as you can see here, it's just on pages 114 and 116 for answers 1 through 5 on the first part. All you're doing is adding more specific details. So for example, you'll notice in here there's an underlined word here, like several stores. Well, which several stores? Is it Target? Is it Bed Bath & Beyond? Is it, Kirkland's? What is it? So you need to tell me exactly what stores. What type of chores did you do? You can do that. Now, in these 2, I didn't underline a word. But using our sense of deduction here, we can assume that I've talked about stores and chores. Didn't mean for those to rhyme. And down here, I talk about several films about vampires. What are those films? So for number 3, Lola enjoys various activities in her spare time. So what activities does Lola like? And I spent most of my afternoon doing homework. Well, what homework? What homework was I doing? Was it math? Was it science? Was it English? On here, I just want you to rewrite the sentence and be more specific. Give me some more specific details. And the same goes down here. A variety of intramural sports. Well, what are those sports? What animal ran away? What accident occurred? What instructor came into what room? What electronic gadgets? I just want you to kind of give me some more information. And then finally, part 2 down here at the bottom, you're given 3 little pieces of information, and I want you to rewrite those information pieces into one complete sentence. So you may cut out repetitive words like he. You may use commas. You know, your idea is that you're combining these sentences to be one fluid sentence. And so that's 5 questions there. So you all have been doing exceptionally well on the grammar assignments. I've been really pleased with how everybody has done. So pat yourselves on the back. That's awesome. But if you want to, if you have any questions, just let me know. But so far, everybody has done very well on the grammar and textbook assignments. So yeah. All right. So for week 8, all you have is the textbook assignment and your discussion forum, which is turning in your draft of compare and contrast. And there's no reading assignments for this week. So it should be a pretty easy week leading up into our midterm for this class. I do want to go over one thing with you all, and that is talking about, get that out of here. That is talking about sources. So in our paper 1, I was very, very, very lenient on how many points I took away if sources were not addressed, because I realize it's our first paper, everybody's getting into the swing of writing, we're trying to get format down, things like that. But starting now with our compare and contrast paper and moving into the next couple of papers that we do in this class, I do want to start to see you not only mention your sources, but try to get them into a specific format. So the format that we use in English, and pretty much I would say that there's 2 formats that are used in college. So college citation. Why do we do it? Why do we cite other people's works? Well, the basic idea is to give credit where credit is due. If you've ever tried to publish something before or created a lengthy piece of text, it takes a lot of time and effort. And it's important that we recognize the people that did all of this work to give us information. Because if we don't recognize and give them credit, then we're technically stealing their intellectual property. And we don't want to do that. It's not ethical, it's not right, and it demeans all the hard work that they put into that, into giving us that information. So colleges use either one of 2 formats. They either use MLA, which is the Modern Language Association, which is what we're going to use, or they use APA, which is the American Psychological Association's way of citation. If you are a nursing student, you will probably use APA more than anything, but if you're not a nursing student or not in the medical field, you'll likely use MLA. So we're going to stick with MLA. And MLA and APA are similar, so you'll notice some similarities between the 2. They're just little nuanced differences, but we're going to stick with MLA. So this is what they use to cite sources. So how do I cite? Well, on the last page, you always have what's called a works cited page. And this is a list of all the different sources that you've used in your paper. Now, some of you did that with the first paper. You submitted a list of your sources, and they were all links, and that's a good start. But if we're going to cite properly in MLA, we have to include some information in order for readers to be able to go out and find these sources and easily give credit where credit's due. I mean, it's easy to click on a link, but it's harder to determine who that author is, when the link was published, and what journal that link was published with. So here's the basic formula for a web page. Most of you, I'm going to imagine, are going to use internet sources for your work, and that's fine. So how do I cite a web page or an online article? How do I do that? So the basic formula is the author's last name, then a comma, and then their first name, and then a period, and then in quotation marks, you're going to put the title of the article, or the title of web article, in quotation marks. Okay, so you've recognized the author. If there is no author, then you start with the title. If some articles won't have an author, and that's fine. If you don't have an author, just delete that and start with the title. But if you do, you want to recognize that person. After the title, you're going to put the website or journal name in italics. And I'm going to give you guys a sample here in just a moment. Okay. Then you're going to have the web publisher, the date published, and a link to the website. And that's it. That's all you have to do. It seems like a lot, but once you start doing these, you'll find that they're not only easy to make, but they don't take you that long to cite and create those. All right. So for example, let's say I have John Smith. He's my author, and his article title is Ways to Combat Cheating on Tests. So that's the article title. And let's say he got this from the New York Times. The New York Times website is just nytimes.com, or I could even put just NY Times. That's my website name. And the people that publish the website, this is where a little bit of confusion happens, because your website and your web publisher are often the same thing, because anymore with marketing, most people that are creating websites are going to name that website after their publication company. So who publishes the NY Times or nytimes.com? Well, simple. It's the New York Times Online. So all I've done is take my website and I've just wrote it out in long form. That's all I did. Then I'm going to do the date published. So I can, if I do the actual date, I'll say like 5 May 2019. I can do it that way. You do it sort of military style, where you have the day and then the month and then the year. Or if there's no date, I'm going to put n.d. n.d. means no date. That means you don't know exactly when it was published. But let's just go with today. Okay. And then I'm going to include my link. So this is where I have my www.nytimes.com/ whatever the entire link is. Okay. And that's it. That's my site. That's my source. That is the proper way to cite in MLA. And if you're not exactly sure, or if you want to check your answers, you can always go to PurdueOwl.com, or just Google or search for Purdue Owl MLA guide, and that will give you that'll give you a link to some MLA sources if you need it. But if you just follow this basic formula for your websites, you're going to be fine. This formula, if you just follow it, you're going to be able to cite all your sources hands down and be able to do it easily. Now, the only other thing I want to talk to you all about is in the actual paper itself. So let's say I have a paragraph, and I'm just going to paraphrase. So if this is the end of my paragraph where I've cited a source, I'm just making this stuff up, as you can tell. Okay. So I've got my paragraph, and this is the end where I've cited my source, and then I have my quotation. Here's my quotation. So what you need to do at the end of the paragraph is, if you've cited some source information from a website or a book or wherever, you need to include at the very end of the sentence, before the period, this little section with italics, and not italics, with parentheses, and put your source in there. Notice I just did the website. That's all I needed. Or you can just put the author's last name, Smith. That's it. That's all you need. You just need to have two things in paper 2 to show me where your sources are. You need to show me what sources you've used, and you can put them on the last page in this format. Or, well, and actually, not or, and you need to, in the actual paper itself, show me where the sources are that you've cited. Okay? Now, if you don't want to do this in-text citation right here, you can also say something along the lines of, according to John Smith with the New York Times, and then put your quote. That works too, as long as you're referencing where you found this information. But it's not going to be good for your paper if all you're doing is saying according to, according to, according to. Eventually, you'll need to put in this in-text citation. Now, a great way to practice this is going to be with the paper draft for paper number 2. Your draft, it would be great if you did some of this citation as well as some of this in-text citation as well. If you just practice with your draft. And the good thing is that by practicing, you're not going to lose any points, but at the same time, I'm also going to be able to give you feedback, which is good. So I would just practice this, practice putting in your sources, practice putting in your little in-text citations in your paper and your sources at the end of your paper. Practice that with our compare and contrast paper. And that way I can give you feedback and tell you if you're doing anything wrong or if everything looks correct. Okay? And as always, you can ask me questions. If any of this is confusing or doesn't make sense, you can always ask me for help, whether it's calling me, whether it's sending me an email. I am going to be out of my office for most of the week until the afternoons. I should be in my office from 3 o'clock to 4:30 most of this week. But just kind of let me know if you're going to stop by my office or send me an email. Give me a phone call. If you have questions, let me know. I'm here to help you. But in the meantime, this week should be pretty easy. It's just your draft and that textbook activity number 4. So I look forward to reading your work. As always, seeing what compare and contrast topics you're going to be doing at the end of week 7. If you've not watched the week 7 video, it's already up here. You can check it out in our announcements. But otherwise, have a wonderful week and enjoy classes as we gear up for midterm. All right, see you all. Bye.